the thread exceeds the maximum context length. Because obviously with ChatGPT they have to do that, and I'm pretty sure they'll have integrated that in the new threads stuff as well. We can't see that, which means it's nice to have feature, but it's also vendor lock-in, and I don't like that.
That's true.
Because I understand that they may want to keep their foundational models closed source, etc. It's lame, but sure. But systems like this, with their mechanism for aggregating conversations and summarizing them so that the system can still follow the entire conversation even if it exceeds the context length, they could just as easily make that open source, but they're not, which
Yeah. Pretty much every model could use something like that. So it's kind of sad that if that is going to be completely closed source.
Yeah, because it's very useful and handy. I just don't we are trying to kind of work in open source space, and they're making that harder and harder by putting more closed source features into their own ecosystem that are not in other models or other providers, which makes it really tempting to just go for it and let yourself be locked into their their offering. So I'm really happy that there's also other open source projects out there kind of implementing the same kinds of features. But of course, it's not at the same level as what OpenAI is doing because, well, funding and engineers, other resources, it's hard to compete. I didn't see it. Oh, right.
I don't think we don't. No, I don't think we're going to add everyone. People don't really like it.
Also, I mean, people who are actually interested know that we have this meeting by now, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Scott, you have been invited onto the stage if you want to join. Yay.
I'm trying to see if I can get a new model to hit its context limit in Playground to see if it really is as long as they say. Going well.
Okay, does anyone have a specific plan for this meeting so far?
Nope.
Okay, they're just gonna
I'm
do
sorry, I'm on mobile, so I'll probably be popping in and out as connection.
Okay. Swifty, did you have an announcement?
No, I was going to say on the context length, I have been hammering it with source files, and it's not run out.
Okay, nice.
It's taking in
That's
some
really
massive C++ files, and it's still been working with them.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think over the next few weeks we should definitely start as a community implementing as many of these great new features as possible. The obvious first one is the new model. I suppose we may have to wait until they're allowing more than 100 messages a day, because that's a bit of a shame. Because it's not really released yet, I guess. It's kind of only pre-release. But as soon as it's ready, let's get that out. I'd be interested to hear whether people want to see voice output and voice input. I know we did have that with 11 Labs and various providers of voice output over time. People are already requesting it. Which one is that? The model? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I have like really basic support pretty much ready to push, but there's also a number of API changes that I wanna like to make and test thoroughly before pushing those. For example, they've renamed a couple of inputs on the API, like for example, functions are now tools, function call is now a tool choice, and some models support multiple function calls at the same time, and some models don't. So yeah, supporting that properly is going to be. I want to figure that out before like pushing something that's kind of half working.
Cool. Yeah, we definitely would like to do vision. A couple of people asking about that. Well, I mean, I would like to. We'd have to see like what would make sense, but I think there's some great potential for vision. You know, having just as a simple thing, having AutoGPT to be able to see a website rather than to do all of this like headless browser scraping and summarization we've been doing would be really cool if we can do it with an automated browser. Having AutoGPT to be able to see your computer screen could be really cool, and see the output of what it's doing. I think there's some interesting things to explore there. Screenshot library for browsers. Yeah, so you mean like we use a library which screenshots a browser and renders it? Yeah, that would be so sensible. Yeah.
A side note for that, of course, like the Vision API does come with a cost.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a test of the emergency alert system. I'm not sure if you can hear it. It's about one screenshot of a 1080p screen costs about the same as 1,000 tokens in the model. So about 1 cent for an entire screen. That means
so
it's probably useful to be kind of careful with the frame rate you push in. But I don't see that as like a factor that's going to be like, oh, this is way too expensive to use practically for like web navigation or something like that.
Yeah.
It should be usable for that.
Interesting though. So every time they visit a website, essentially, it's going to cost you a cent.
Yeah, well, just for 1 cent per frame, because a website can be like 20 frames long.
Yeah, I was going to say that's another thing. Scrolling down. Interesting. Very interesting. And is there a resolution limit, or does it artificially limit the resolution afterwards? Because if not, then you could take like a really long screenshot, for example. I mean, there must be some limit. But yeah, that's something to look into. Yeah, we'll have to look into what the limit is, because there's so much. You can send 6 images at once. Yeah, there's so much potential for vision, and now that we have API access, I've been one of this for so long.
It seems like they rescale whatever you put into a maximum of 2000 by 2000 pixels. So if you put in a really long screenshot, then at some point you're going to lose resolution and it's not going to be readable anymore.
Right. Yeah, I'll play about that.
But anyways, should we just do a round of what everyone's been up to?
I can't edit any of the fields on it, so I can't say put attendees or add any notes to it. I can only, yeah, I'll link the page. No, this.
it's good to hear that people are interested in voice in and out. I think that's definitely something we can do. I would use that all the time. I always use ChatGPT voice in and out, or the more limited version. But now I have the full version, so it's very exciting. Okay, yeah. So do we have a few agenda items to run through in these notes, or not?
Yeah. So there's. Go ahead.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Thank you very much, Sally. Great work. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we've been chatting, a few people in the community, about initiatives to kind of help people contribute in meaningful ways. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be working on rolling out loads of ways to actually, contribute to the most exciting and pressing cutting edge things that we'd like to see, and more ways to kind of collaborate and work together publicly.
I personally would love to see if we can basically clone a lot of OpenAI's capabilities with open source models. And that'd be really cool. Like, I know we'll be a little bit behind. Technically, we're like 6 months behind because our open models aren't as good as OpenAI. But it'd be just cool to have, instead of as OpenAI progresses and essentially closed sources bits. So, for example, we're seeing the agents now come out on OpenAI, and that's essentially going to be losing all that knowledge from the open source space if everyone just moves over to their APIs. So it'd be cool to be able to have like this, essentially a clone of all OpenAI's capabilities that we can provide. You're muted, Turan.
Thanks. Yeah. Even still, it can be built using the same models. Even you can still provide those, a version of those closed source capabilities with GPT-4 Turbo, for example. Like LangChain launched yesterday a open, I think they called it like Open GPTs or something, which is essentially exactly that. It's like an open source clone of OpenAI's GPT's platform.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the direction we want to go, but that's just entered my head.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's just an example, but yeah, I mean, I do want to use the best models personally because like it's going to make the capabilities so much better. Otherwise, we have to wait like an extra year for internet to implement any new capability that an agent's now able to do, if that's how far behind the open source models happen to be at the time.
Yeah, like for a lot of these things are input and output related, so they should be, moderately easy to basically build a proxy service that will implement these capabilities for any model and not just, OpenAI's own models. Maybe this is something we can work with GPT for all on, because, well, they are a proxy service that emulates OpenAI's models in the same API, so that you can use it with local models or something.
So, one of the things I was thinking, Peter, is you'd mentioned a while ago about making AutoGPT as everything's plugins. And I was just thinking that, so if OpenAI now is doing memory, and you made a comment somewhere about how we still need memory because of certain reasons, but imagine, say, OpenAI provides memory now. We could, if we want to keep using the latest tech, we could not use our memory module if we want to use OpenAI. So we can give people the option to use a memory module. And that may apply for, like, say, text to speech. we could use like a locally hosted Whisper if we wanted to, or we could use OpenAI's API.
Yeah, I think the challenge in that is that OpenAI is really integrating all their services together. Like they're not, a lot of them are not standalone endpoints. No, they're options on one of their existing endpoints. So if you're going to say, okay, you can either use this or you can use some other external service, then you're going to have implementation in different parts of your application. And that is, well, I don't like the architectural implications of that, to be honest. But yes, I do think it's a very good idea to like be flexible and not lock ourselves in with all of OpenAI's cool new features. Especially because like as soon as we do that, we lose the momentum moving forward in developing like interesting features ourselves. Basically, if we just use OpenAI's memory, then we'll stop developing our own if it works well enough. That's like practically how it's going to work. So
I really have not thought this through yet fully, but I'm just thinking that with like vendor lock-in and OpenAI is going to dominate this whole space, people are going to not want to use OpenAI for various reasons, or people are going to want to be able to build their own tools or modify their own things. And because a lot of OpenAI stuff's closed sourced, people aren't going to have anywhere to go. And I know in some ways it doesn't make sense because OpenAI is be better than everything else, but maybe it's something worth thinking about.
yeah, I definitely think it's worth, well, as I said, like maybe collaborating with GPT for all to integrate, for example, threads and maybe also JSON mode, which would be very valuable for a lot of services. Or maybe find an alternative to JSON mode that works well with a broader range of models. For example, some models work a lot better with XML output, and converting that to JSON would be trivial. So, I mean, I think if we want to, it's definitely possible to implement a lot of these features in the open source space. And I do agree with you that people would use it for whatever their reason is. I'm just wondering how much resources we can put towards this, because you know, we're not getting the 100 pull requests a day like we were getting in the beginning. So we have to focus on like things that are both very useful and feasible to implement within a couple weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think something I was just talking to Scott about was some initiative, also like similar conversation with Bentley, to have for us to be able to say, okay, like we want to implement this feature, and we add it to a sort of task list in, I mean, I know we've already got this on GitHub, but somewhere quite casual, like a Discord channel or something, and have a public space for people to work together on this Discord. So Bentley, you've been setting up Notion, giving people access to task tracking through that, right? Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people join. I see a lot of people join the server who want to contribute but don't know where to start, and it's not surprising. It's very intimidating and complicated to actually get get started and contribute to this. Which, when there were thousands of people trying to do that, that kind of was a little bit helpful because it meant that we weren't too overwhelmed. But now it definitely makes sense to lower the bar for entry and just make it sort of easy for people to contribute, because there's some very, very talented people joining that post in the introduce yourself channel and have all of these skills and say, how can I help? And they don't get utilized. Basically no one replies, or they get the response of like, I don't know. We don't know how you can help. And so I think this would be a great way. So we'd have a place where anyone can contribute and work in a kind of more public way as well.
So what part of this would happen on GitHub and what part on Discord/Ocean?
Bentley, do you have an answer to that?
So what's the distribution of like how much of this is gonna be happening on Notion, GitHub, and Discord? Okay, fair. However, we already have GitHub projects for this. And I don't want to say you're on the wrong track, but I do want to say that this would be duplicate. And like I've been trying to maintain those GitHub projects, assigning priorities, sorting out issues that are, that need working on. And we do point to those GitHub projects in the contributor documentation, etc. So maybe we can check out like if, how to consolidate these two, because I kind of want to stay away from duplicating a lot of this information across multiple places. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
We don't
anyways,
want duplication, but let me just say, like, we don't want duplication, but we do want the easiest, like, lowest friction method. So if that means moving things, then we shouldn't be afraid of doing that. But we'll see. We'll see what people actually want to use, because there's obviously some reason why people aren't contributing in this, to this method we already have set up, and people definitely want to. So it's not from lack of desire.
That's fair. In any case, thanks a lot for setting this up.
Yeah, thanks, Bentley. Exciting.
So what's next?
Okay, so the agenda list, I can't modify, but firstly, do we have any announcement?
Potentially. I think, are we ready to announce, Craig, when we are hosting the event on Thursday and what it's about? We probably are.
I think we were just waiting for your approval to that. So
for the date and time, yeah, happy.
Great. So we're going to finally announce the winners of the hackathon on Thursday, I believe 5 p.m. CET, so that's 4 p.m. UK time. And let me just pull up the information about it so I can read off what's going to go on. So we're going to be inviting all the teams to attend. At least I assume that means all the winning teams to attend, and give each one of them the opportunity to do a presentation on their project. And then after the presentations, we're going to announce the rewards, like who's won and what place they came in and all that. And then after that, there's going to be a little bit of a Q&A between the winning teams and the AutoGPT team. And we expect it to last about an hour and a half.
Wow.
So
I'm very excited for this.
There's a lot of money up for grabs.
Yeah, and there's been some amazing things made. Like we've been judging behind the scenes and running what everyone's made, and wow, it's so exciting. Some really great talent out there, so well done, everybody. And yeah, see
Been
you
digging
on
into some of the projects
Thursday.
and okay, next thing on the agenda is the agenda review. The agenda review, we need to put more in it before next meeting. I think that's the conclusion. And then we have short updates. First update is from Ops, which I don't think anyone knows what that is yet.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
That's like the CI/CD we have set up. Like people going in and out of the organization, people joining, contributing. Have we added any people to our roster recently?
I mean, I believe.
Yeah, I hear Tommy has been doing good work. So again, thanks for that. Actually, are we keeping track of, so like aside from this Notion space that was created, are we keeping track of like active contributors anywhere?
I'm not sure. I mean, we've got the roles on Discord. Bentley, have you been when you've been assigning people sort of roles? Is that the sort of only place that's kept track of, or is there another? Yeah, fair enough.
So let's just add a little item then to maybe keep track of contributors a bit better. So I'm going to just make my own local note, and maybe after the meeting we can update this meeting agenda document. Okay, I'm refreshing my page. Yeah, refresh the page and I can now. Great. So action item is let's keep track of contributors better.
Cool.
Yes. Like we kind of stopped doing releases, so that has made it harder to track like new contributors and people who have contributed to the latest release. And also, we're getting contributions that are not in form of code, like just people having interesting conversations or posting ideas or offering their help. So yeah, just trying to say not everything is code, and we gotta keep track of people contributing non-code as well.
Yeah, I would love it if we could have like a sort of section where we highlight things like that have happened over the past week and tell everyone about cool things, cool ideas people have had and working.
In previous projects I've been involved in, they have like a community update every week where maybe we just post it as an announcement somewhere and just say this is the cool thing people from the community have been doing.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And we can incorporate it into this meeting, like just discuss it live, but also post it in a channel or something. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds really good. Yeah, absolutely.
Good idea. Okay. Anything else in the ops section?
Not that I know.
Okay, research now. Research is the fun bit. We've all been doing a lot of research at the moment. I don't know if we're ready to share any of that research. Turan, you can have the first word.
Yeah, I mean, depends what research. We've obviously there's been loads of things released right now the last 24 hours, so lots of fun things to play with. But yeah, I don't know. Depends on what it is. But we're trying to work on some interesting initiatives on how to exploring different options to try and see what can bring amazing value and ability to AutoGPT. Now that OpenAI have just released a whole new set of toys for us to play with, I think it's potentially our focus is probably going to shift a little bit so we can make use of those. But yeah, I don't really have anything useful to share yet.
Like what I'm kind of hoping is that this new model is going to shift the bottleneck in AutoGPT from the models we're using, which we were just hitting hard limits on comprehension basically. Now, if we can shift the bottleneck from comprehension to facilities, that's going to be a really big step. And I'm really hoping that these models are going to do that. That also means that we can focus more on developing these facilities instead of like fixing tiny changes in the prompt so that it will do what you want.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, we've got this new JSON form of whatever it is thing coming from OpenAI, whatever they're calling that. But that's amazing. We can just get it to respond in JSON now. Brilliant. That's been something we've struggled with the entire time. If that just works as well as it does, so as they say it does, then that's perfect. And also memory and speed and cost are big bottlenecks for, as well as comprehension. For an agent, and those have potentially all been, if not solved, pushed back in a very big way.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of the team has been doing research into various different things. Like Nick has been looking at prompt length and seeing how that impacts things. I've also been looking at Minstrel and seeing how capable that is. So maybe what we can do for next time is everyone in the team who's been doing some little research, even if it's like only an hour here or there, to understand things, we could give an update on those ideas and what we've learned. And I definitely have stuff to share next week because I've been reading a lot about what some of the contributors to the hackathon have done. And there's a lot of great ideas that have come out of them, which I'd be happy to share, but I don't want to do that this week for obvious reasons.
Yeah, no, that's a very good idea. I think after the hackathon, we'll have a lot of learnings to discuss, and we can do some deep dives, and maybe involve the team members as well. Yeah, that sounds great.
I'm going to add an action item here, maybe on Fridays to collate research things from the team and the community who've been like investigating stuff, and we'll put together a little document of that which we can have for the meeting.
Yeah, happy with that. Sounds good. Could be something that just anyone could contribute to in the future as well if we had some organization around that.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking, because there's so much work that's been going into just even understanding how prompts work and how to manipulate the prompts to get what you want out. I came across this really obvious but great idea. The fact that if you don't get what you want from a prompt, like oftentimes we first think to go and say, oh, but change this now as your next prompt. but maybe it's a non-deterministic process, so you can just ask to regenerate and see whether that gives you a better answer. And it does actually sometimes. So you can just regenerate the answer a few times and pick the best answer.
Yeah, interesting. I certainly do that with ChatGPT.
Yeah. Anyone got anything they want to share on research front? Or we'll go to the next point.
Well, just to elaborate a little bit on what Nick was doing, he was looking into like the intricacies of working with large context models, and not necessarily like you can throw 100 pages worth of code or something or prompts into a model. Question is, does that change the way it goes about processing the prompt? Because like the more stuff goes in there, the more important it becomes to like really stress and focus the attention to specific parts of the prompt. Because there will be a part that says, okay, I want you to do this, and I want you to respond in this way, and then the rest is just content that has to process. But if you add enough content, there can be a point, at least depending on the architecture of the model, where it starts diluting the meaning of the really important parts of your prompt, and it starts degrading the quality of the response. So that's basically what his research is going into, specifically with regards to the models from Anthropic, like the 100K context models.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very interesting, and I'm very interested to hear how the new GPT-4 Turbo's 128K context is reflected in that. Because it's certainly, like they mentioned in the keynote, Sam specifically mentioned that the context didn't, I don't know if he said it didn't degrade performance or it degrades it less. I assume it degrades it less than previous models, but we don't really have any numbers on that. So I'm quite interested to see because, as you say, before 100K token, like filling up 100K tokens and sending it off would produce a terrible result. But I want to know, is 100K tokens of GPT-4 Turbo significantly worse than 1,000 tokens, in terms of result quality?
Yeah.
Probably the answer is yes, but they kind of claimed it wasn't, so interesting.
Okay, next up is development. Has anyone been doing any development here?
Yes.
Really very excited about that.
I mean, I can't talk about all of it, but yesterday I was working on adding support for this new OpenAI model and seeing how we can leverage some of the other features. Because, for example, I've been planning to add like multi-function calling to AutoGPT for a while, and now OpenAI supports that in their API. Of course, the caveat is if we want to do that with any other model, we'll have to implement like a compatibility layer, which is, you know, I guess we'll just have to. But that is really nice to have. I honestly, I gotta check my to-do list for some of the other stuff that I've been working on, because my brain is chaos, but as soon as I start on attack, it works pretty well. I'm sure some of you may recognize this. Right. So also the front end since now has Markdown support, and I've been working with Hunter on kind of refining the markup of that and using that in the step output of AutoGPT. Because it's very nice if you can actually like read the format that's being spewed out by the agent. Something that still could use some attention is outputting, like for example, a function call where one of the arguments is like a whole bunch of code or text. Like if you're running execute Python code, then the LLM will generate a whole lot of code and just throw it in an argument, and that's totally unreadable in the current format. So I want to add a little bit of extra formatting to that so you can see what kind of code it's executing.
Nice, yeah.
Also, well, I've kind of pivoted away from plowing through that White House AI Act because well, there was other more exciting stuff to do. If anyone has more like interesting insights from that, please let us know, because like I've gotten halfway and then I'm I'll look at it for about an hour every day, but it's a lot of dry matter to plow through. I'm not very good at that.
Now, GPT-4 has a long context length. Have you tried asking for a summary?
I probably should, yeah. Except, like I know that LLMs are not 100% reliable, so basically I don't trust it to understand what I want to know out of this document. Maybe that's my trust issues on my end. It's probably just requires some good prompting, but even if it gave me a good summary, I would want to verify the result, because this is legislation. This is like really, if there's anything interesting in there, then it's going to be really important. So this is something to get right. I may have mentioned this earlier, but like Docker containers are now persistent in the AutoGPT agent. So like sequential Python commands will execute in the same environment, which means you can install packages and then in the next step execute code that uses those packages, which is something that the LLM has been trying to do for a while. So now that should actually work. And I've been trying to kind of dissect parts of the application into like things that you can use a cheap model for, and things that really require the more creative and intelligent model. Although that may become irrelevant with the new GPT-4 Turbo, because it's so much cheaper and faster.
Yeah, it's crazy how the context length changes things, because previously you would do like an embedding and an embedding Q&A or something to talk to a massive document like that. But I've just Googled 100K tokens is apparently roughly 75,000 words, which is roughly 150 pages of standard print, whatever that happens to be. So that's just crazy. That's like, half of a reasonable book you could just paste into it now.
Yeah, I mean,
really
it's not going to be cheap,
no,
but
it's not going to be cheap.
it'll work all right.
Yeah.
Like for efficiency, those retrieval systems are probably still relevant, but
yeah, definitely still relevant. I agree. We certainly, and that's actually a very good point you're making there, because what we don't want to do is use our same memory system, or sorry, our same rolling context system, as we have been really for Turbo, because otherwise, the longer you use the agent, like currently, we only roll the context if you hit the context limit, basically, for the window, and so we don't really want to only start rolling the context when you hit 128k tokens, because otherwise every single message you send from then on is going to be a call over 128k tokens, which is going to cost you, I don't know, 128 times, what is it cost per token now? Is it a cent or
I think
no,
it's cents per 1,000 tokens, so that's going to be $1.28 per request.
Per request. Yeah, exactly. So we realistically probably only want to actually have the context roll to, well, if we wanted to keep it the same cost as GPT-4, then that's, they're saying it's 3 times cheaper. So, I think it's 8K tokens GPT-4, wasn't it? So, if we make it 24K tokens or something, then it's the same cost.
I mean, this is an optimization curve, though. Like, if you can build something that is really effective with the entire context being utilized, then there may be applications where it's actually worth it to just use the full context length, pay $1.28 for every request, and then I don't know. But I'm really curious what kind of applications that would be.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I can see it for coding potentially. I'm very interested to see how like the new coding agents perform with a 128k token length. Or maybe they're just not built for it. To be honest, they probably optimize too much now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, I do have to unfortunately dash because I have another meeting.
Yeah, me too, because I gotta check out of this hostel.
Okay.
The last few items is documentation, collaboration, visibility, facilities, discussions, team inventory, plan time for other questions, and questions from the stage. Anyone want to say anything about those?
Well, Bentley's been working on documentation, so.
Oh, nice. That's amazing.
Okay.
Thank you very much for doing
Very
that.
nice.
Yeah, me and Scott were literally just talking about how the documentation needs an overhaul. So that's very well timed. Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot for taking charge on that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thanks everyone for coming. I think in the next week we'll have a lot of very exciting things. It'll be just after we've announced the winners of the hackathon. And in the coming weeks we'll have a much more structured maintaining meeting and have some new initiatives coming. So we're working on that right now. Okay.
All right.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone.